Meeting. Good morning, welcome to Market Commentary. So what you see over here is basically Nifty chart on weekly basis. Something which is important at the start of the week itself, we have seen a red candle in progress. So that's not a good sign. Apart from that, it is a non-result month. So you can see some kind of profit booking which can take place. Also, what we see is important event RBI meeting which is also panned out. Now, something which is important on the weekly format. First thing, the high which was made over here during the Karnataka election was 10,900 or so. So keeping that point into mark, roughly around the highs of 10,800 to 900, where the upper end gets stalled. But apart from that, what I see from yesterday's high, we can bring our resistance down to 10,777. Right. So the same high which has been made yesterday, or basically the start of the week, the open candle basically becomes a very good resistance point at the top. Now Nifty cannot become bullish unless and until this level is being taken out. So that becomes one of our best takeaway in order to understand whether Nifty is in bullish or bearish zone. So on the weekly front, there is something which is very straightforward, that it is now trying to make you can say the lower highs which are there, and mostly what we try to now see, even on the triangle basis or trend line basis, it has to reverse and go past 10,750 mark or 10,800 mark to make a new rally on the upside. So start of the week shows it is not in the positive mode, and apart from that, we get another important point for our entire month, which is this week's high, right? So that is on the upper side. When we go on the lower side, what we see over here, this was the last time where complete selling took place. It did went down and it recovered all the way up, and it basically recovered somewhat of all the losing gain of the month. Now the something important over here is basically to understand or get the bottom hand into place. So when I see over here, this becomes your resistance support on the downside. So we have seen here it went down, but it tried to recover the entire loss which was there in the week. So this becomes an important milestone again in order to watch out for. So 10,600 is a small weekly support, and 10,750 or 800 are the higher levels of resistance. Now important is to look out whether it basically passes this or not. Agenda over here, if you see, these are all thin candles which are here. There is no huge bodies in order to provide support. So it can surpass this and come a bit down towards 10,400 or so. So let's look on daily chart whether this 10,600 seems to be very good support or not, and whether it can sustain this or not. So what I see on the daily chart, things are pretty much same. If you see over here on the top, continuous 3 times it has tested the same level, 10,750 kind of mark, 760 kind of mark, and there was a small gap down which was also being formed around those levels. So this becomes a huge resistance on the upside. Apart from the large sell-off which we saw yesterday, it is again undergoing some kind of sell-off right in the morning prior to the RBI meeting. So here there was gap down, there was gap up, gap got filled, and now it is trying to go down. As I said, there is no huge body in place on the downside. So if I see on the downside, if these levels are taken out, it can straight away reach to this gap zone which was formed prior. So around 10,520 kind of range can be achieved. This is where the gap up took place and it zoomed higher, and this was a continuous sell which was happening almost to the base of 10,400. So a similar downside is on its way and it has filled the gap. So a downside towards these levels of 10,570 and then 10,530. Today, because of the RBI meeting, it can go in those range. So that is on the daily side. At least we understood the daily side also gives me the higher resistance point at the same level of weekly, and on the lower end, if I see 10,530 becomes now a very crucial support zone, right? Apart because of the gap which has been filled, and now the gap getting filled and it is going down, it can basically put additional pressure. Going on the 4-hour chart just to analyze whether the gap is getting filled or not. If you see over here, this was the gap which was formed, which got filled yesterday. It opened now in the other half yesterday, again it went down. So this gap was automatically filled. What I see today, the continuous downside is still going on, and if we see at least towards these levels before RBI can be reached. So another 30 points downside is still visible on Nifty, and it can also push itself down to 10,530 or so. So these are the levels where the lower end, if you see, is a very crucial level, because where the selling took place and the rise started from 10,400 to 500 zone. So on the downside, as we have already discussed prior in our commentary, 10,400 becomes a very good support point on the downside if we try to see, and on the higher side 10,800 becomes the resistance point. So there is a 400 points upside and downside within which Nifty can pan out. Going down to Bank Nifty, since RBI policy is there, Bank Nifty will be very, very important to watch out for. Same thing has happened in Bank Nifty as well. What I see over here, in the last week, the high was made because of HDFC around the same zone where the weekly start high was also made. So I can say somewhat it is in that resistance zone at the top of 27,000. Again, placing a simple trend line, it basically shows lower high has been made. You can also put RSI and understand some kind of divergence. But most important to understand or analyze over here, the high has been made lower, but apart from that, a continuous sell has happened. So there has been multiple spikes on the higher side, showing that there was no big upside which was there in Bank Nifty, trying to reverse all the gain. The important point now is to watch out where it will stop. Now what I see over here, was the base on the weekly side, 25,700, where it went up, and it again came back and tested the same zone. So 25,700 becomes very, very crucial for Bank Nifty. What we see over here, there is a continuous sell from yesterday, and going into RBI might be sell, and if increase in rates or hawkish commentary can basically bring Bank Nifty down towards 25,700. Now try to understand from the top, if I consider the continuous fall which has happened. So 27,000, the fall has started, and it can reach towards 25,700. So that is around 1,300 points fall, which is quite a lot for Bank Nifty for entire monthly ATR to be completed. So the agenda would be coming into a very strong support zone, and you can basically look for a reversal around these zones. So let RBI meeting get panned out, let him go down, give some kind of selling off, and then what you can see panning out on the support base, and you can look into the intraday or daily segments in order to enter at these zones. So on the weekly format, it is very much clear, 25,700 is a very, very crucial juncture for Bank Nifty, and it has to go and halt in that zone. Now coming from the weekly point, thing is pretty much clear. 27 becomes a very huge resistance from where the selling took place. So on the upside, it is 27,000. On the downside, it is 25,700 on the weekly format. Going down inside the days to understand whether the levels are same or not, I can still agree with the same levels on the high side. So this was the point during Karnataka election, almost around 27,000, and couple of days it again started to pierce 27,000, and then the sell-off took place around this zone. So it becomes a huge resistance zone going forward. On the daily front, it is very much clear, 27,000. Now the point was, yesterday's sell-off took away the entire gap. So the sell-off was so strong that it basically filled the entire gap. Now we all need to see whether it can sustain this downside or not. So since the gap got filled, it can go down, and small support can come around 26,000 or so. But then the idea is pretty much clear on the weekly format, because of the meeting and stuff or the event panning out, it can breach and reach towards 25,700. Even intraday spike can reach towards 25,700 or so. But a good reversal will be seen or will be shown around these levels. So keep that in mind. So whenever it approaches this end, go on intraday, try to see on 15 minutes whether it is finding any reversal or not, because a sharp bounce from this end can bring him back towards 26,200. So there can be a 500 point rally from the base of 25,700. Please try to understand. So this is a good opportunity in Bank Nifty. Keep your eyes open. If these levels are taken out, 26,000 straight towards 25,700, and then a quick bounce back of 300 to 500 is quite possible. But going on the upside, what I see today, again, it has started with a soft note. It cannot go above today's high, or you can say 26,300 or so. So only because of the meeting it can go up. The best part is not to go in the buy state right now, which is in the limbo state. You do not know whether it's going up or down. Idea is to let him crack down towards these levels where the monthly ATR gets exhausted, and then you can go out and find a quick reversal of 500 points or so. Right. So keep an eye on 25,700 for the RBI meeting, and the top is already known, 27,000, which is hardly to be reached. Now there is no possibility of reaching 27,000 quite so easily. Maybe in the next month or so, not right now. So that's your Bank Nifty, and let's see only from the 4 hourly basis the things collide on the same front or not. So it's pretty much the same what I saw on the daily front, weekly front. This becomes a huge resistance. The selling took place, the gap got filled. Again, a selling is coming by towards 26,000 or so. Once 26,000 on a smaller time frame is taken out, there is a clear agenda of 25,700. The most important point on this 4 hourly chart, there was a sell-off, 2 candles above the base. It stopped the sell-off. Again, there was a sell-off, and it basically took one side U-turn, kind of double bottom formation, and it reversed all the losses which were there in the last expiry. So most important point which we understand from the shooting taking place from the levels of 25,700 is where I'm trying to say it becomes a very good support point for us to understand. So that's for Bank Nifty and specifically the RBI meeting which is getting underplayed. So 26,000 and 25,700 is very, very important. Going back to Nifty today, around 35 points down. Let's go and see who are the gainers and losers. What I see over here is Tech Mahindra, which is trying to gain a bit or so. Bajaj Finance also finding some relief rally. And then there is Reliance, Maruti. So there are some heavyweights which are there trying to play their game. Losing side, what we consider is Z, L&T. L&T has been going up, so it's correcting a lot. Now, Dr. Reddy. So there is some kind of selling coming from different sectors or so. So there is no one full round of sector selling. It's a broad-based buying which has also been seen, but basically from the support event. So Reliance and Maruti trying to form the gap. Now let's take some of the stocks where you can look for buy and sell opportunities. First, I have considered TCS because what I see now, the bonus has been done. What I have observed over here from the high, it had basically formed a good selling which took place, and it tried to sustain above 1750 mark but could not. So if I just try to see 1750, it is now trying to remain below 1750 mark. Right, so try to sustain. Now it is trying to make the same high around 1750. The important point here is to understand if it keeps making the same highs, there is downside almost towards these levels for the first support of around 1700 or so. So 1700 is a good support line, and it can basically come down and breach this support line, then reaching towards 1600 or so. So there are huge downside possibility on TCS, but you need to be cautious when to enter and exit. Agenda is pretty much clear. It is 1750 becomes a very huge resistance, and then on the downside, if it breaches 1700, straight towards 1620 or so. Right, so there is a good downside on TCS since the zoom has been faster, and we can see a fall. Seeing the same on the 4 hourly front, things are pretty much clear. It was trying to remain above throughout, and it was not. Now it is trying to remain below this. Right, so this 1750 becomes a crucial level for TCS to watch out for. Trying to remain a candidate for a sell opportunity. So TCS is there. Let's take now Bajaj Finance, which has also been rising higher. So if I go and see even Bajaj Finance on daily point of view, things are pretty much clear. It's trying to go almost in the side zone, right? So it is in the narrow range where Bajaj Finance has been holding on to, and the lower level of Bajaj Finance is around 2060 kind of levels. Right, so point is pretty much clear. Even Bajaj Finance can find some kind of selling now because it is one of the housing finance. It's basically a financing institution. HDFC has gone down, so you can see even some pressure coming its way. So agenda is pretty much clear. It was falling for 3 days, so trying to see some kind of relief rally. But keep this in mind on the upper end. If we find some kind of selling coming into play, Bajaj Finance losing the levels of 2050 kind of levels can bring to 1950. There is a straight downfall which is also possible in Bajaj Finance. It is some kind of relief rally right now. Keep an eye on these levels, and as I see over here, the complete red candle was formed and it did not even recover more than 50%. So on the upper end, we can see the 50% upside was seen. It came back down. Now let's see whether 2100 is not taken out or so, and if it does not, you can see the second time when it comes down now, it has been tested these levels many times. It might breach and come down towards these range or so. So TCS and Bajaj Finance seem to be good candidates from short front. Let's go and see another stock which is from Auto, Mahindra and Mahindra. So Mahindra has been running strong through and through. What I look from the daily front, the rally took place, it came back down. Again, the rally took place and reached almost to the higher levels. The most important point of this rally was the top was made around this zone and basically went down again with gap up. It zoomed and it surpassed these levels. Now, it is not a straight sell as Mahindra and Mahindra. What we need to now understand, this becomes very important level for Mahindra. When I see Mahindra, there has been 3 stunts of continuous rally and from the base. So there was a good sweep rally which has taken place. But apart from that, there was a continuous selling. So there was a buy and a sell. And apart from that, there was no candle formed below this. Right? So this is where you are seeing there is some strength more in Mahindra. It might rise higher towards 922 or so. But try to understand, if it tries to reverse back, this level is very important. So keeping in mind 900 level for Mahindra is important. Obviously some tractor sales number will come and then it will try to zoom on the upside, but it might reverse on the higher side, forming kind of double top. But the important milestone for Mahindra for short is only around these 900 levels. So 900 level can remain very crucial for Mahindra. If it reaches 907 or so, which are the small lows of today and yesterday, and you can basically see it approaching towards 900 and then it can approach towards 850 kind of so, right? So this gap can be reached once again, provided that after a second round of rally forming a double top and then breaching of 907 and 900 can bring him down straight towards these levels. The last stock is Reliance and ITC, 2 stocks which can provide support to Nifty. Now what I see over here, a straight double bottom, a clear double bottom getting formed on Reliance, and it basically went above the neckline as well. So above the neckline it is trying to zoom, but somewhere it will start trying to see some kind of selling on the higher way. So there is a 3 continuous gaining days for Reliance, and you might find some kind of stoppage coming at the higher end. But we can basically look for a gap up bearish on Reliance on everyday basis. So that can be one of the good selling point on Reliance. Seeing the ITC, so there are 2 guys who can provide support. So Reliance is providing support, but what I see on ITC is very crucial and something very different. So on the top, as we had already discussed, these levels were very crucial. It never reached the second time when it came. The good Moribazus were formed. Now it was trying to remain below this. So the level got tested, now trying to go below this. Now try to understand, these candles are not heavy selling candles. These are very small candles, and which can basically find a quick reversal in ITC, right? So what we see over here in ITC, the base is there. It can come to 260 as well, but before it comes to 260, there is more chance for him to get some support in this range, right? And it can zoom and reverse straight away to 272 in one single day. So there is a huge upside potential in ITC of 2% to 3%, which is quite possible intraday. Try to understand. So because the candles which have been formed are basically very low, kind of an NR category candles, and it can zoom past in one single day to 273.5 kind of range. So keeping that in mind, we look for ITC on gap down bullish. So whenever you get a chance of gap down bullish now intraday basis, they become a good candidate for buy, and once it is in the buy zone, let him reach towards these 272, 273 kind of levels on the intraday basis. So 2% to 3% rise on ITC is possible. Reliance, you can look for gap up bearish. This you can look for gap down bullish. So these are the stocks which you can focus on for coming days. Thank you for joining in, and we'll connect again tomorrow.